Many people still think that stimulation simply means giving bees a little sugar water from time to time. But the difference between an average colony and one that develops explosively often comes down to the method alone. It matters how, when, and with what you stimulate, and most importantly, what kind of system you use. In this video, I'll show you what each stimulation method is really capable of and how to choose the one that brings out the most from your bees and perfectly match the results you want to achieve. Why is stimulation important in the first place? In modern beekeeping, stimulation is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. For a colony to truly take advantage of the season's full potential, its development need to start on time. And for that, simply waiting on nature is not enough. The goal of stimulation is to stimulate egg laying before the main nectar flow, boost brood production, and with it the colony's foraging power, and stabilize development even when nature offers little nectar. No nectar, no problem. With proper stimulation, you can create the illusion of a nectar flow and trigger the same biological response that nature would only bring weeks or even months later. Simply put, if you are not stimulating, you are falling behind. And you won't just get less honey, your colony will also be less developed. Why isn't it enough to rely on nature anymore? Today's beekeepers are working in a completely different world than even 10 or 15 years ago. The bees' natural food source are becoming less and less reliable, and there are several reasons for that. Climate change. Bloom timing have become unpredictable, and early or delayed bloom can be enough to prevent the colony from developing on time. Intensive apiculture. Monoculture farming reduces diverse floral source, and pesticides used directly weakens colonies. And nectar dearth periods. Even in the best location, there are weeks when almost nothing produces nectar, and during these times, the colony would stop developing. These factors together mean that if you rely only on nature, it will often let you down. Stimulation, however, gives you the ability to take control of colony development. So, it's not the environment that defines your limits. Stimulation is not feeding, it's a strategy. Many beekeepers still think of stimulation as just a little extra feeding at the start of the season. A bottle of syrup, a bit of patty, and off they go. But this mindset is now outdated. In modern precision beekeeping, stimulation is a deliberate intervention. You have to time it, when you start, how long it lasts, and when you stop. You have to dose it. The quantity and frequency make a big difference. You have to combine it. Syrup alone is not enough. You also need protein, pollen substitutes, and a proper internal hive temperature. The goal is not to feed the bees, but to trigger the biological response of a nectar flow and start egg laying. Align colony development with the foraging season and build the strongest possible, yet manageable colony strength for the main nectar flow. Stimulation is not about replacement, it's about control. Those who do it right can actually pre-program their colonies, and that's no longer a trick, it's a competitive advantage. There are several stimulation systems out there, but choosing the right one makes all the difference. One will waste your time and bring weak results, while another can literally multiply your colony strength. Let's now take a closer look at the three most common stimulation systems: the automatic system, the vacuum bucket system, and the traditional manual feeding, with their pros and cons. First, automatic stimulation system. How does it really work? This is a smart, digitally controlled system that can be managed remotely from your phone. Its purpose is to mimic a natural nectar flow by delivering small, frequent doses of syrup, providing a constant stimulus for colony development. The system can be built and used in two main configurations. The 110 or 230 volts system smart plug control. In this version, the pump is controlled by a smart plug that you plug into a regular outlet. This plug is compatible with the Tuya Smart mobile app. In the app, you can easily set how many times, when, and for how long the system doses syrup. It delivers about 50 milliliters of syrup into the hive 3 to 10 times a day, almost unnoticed but biologically very effective. You can adjust the settings anytime, even remotely, for example, if the weather changes or the colony development shifts. The 12-volt system, custom controlled and app. This version works with a custom-built dedicated controller managed through its own mobile app. The system is fully autonomous and runs on a 12 volts battery, so it's perfect for apiaries without electricity. The app allows precise programming of dosage, timing and frequency. The development includes a data collection and analysis module that records stimulation cycles and helps fine-tune the strategy later. The key point: it doesn't just dose syrup, but plans, controls and optimize. This system not only physically eases your work, but turns stimulation into a true precision intervention. This is where technology meets biology, and together they create stronger, more efficient colonies. What are the benefits of automating stimulation? Continuous stimulus, stable egg laying. The system's greatest strength is giving small, continuous impulses to the colony, as if there were a constant nectar flow around the hive. This blooming illusion stimulates the queen to lay eggs continuously instead of in bursts, resulting in more balanced and faster development. Precision dosing. Every dose is timed, controlled and delivered in exact amounts. No overfeeding, no waste, only what the colony needs, exactly when it needs it. This is a true precision beekeeping. Based on your field measurements and tests, colonies using the automatic system reach up to 75 to 85% larger population in the same time compared to manual or semi-automatic stimulation. This means more foragers, higher yields and better winter survival. Can be combined with pollen substitutes and protein. The system works most effectively when combined with patties. This combination of continuous carbohydrates plus stable protein and pollen substitutes biologically mimics a natural nectar flow, fully unlocking the colony's genetic potential. The biggest long-term advantage: no more manual feeding burden, less work, more scalable. No need to visit the apiary 3 times a week or dose each colony separately. This system can be expanded to hundreds of colonies, all managed from a single mobile device. Are there disadvantages? Yes, but they can be managed. Higher initial investment. Setting up an automatic system, it's not a cheap solution. Pump, tubes, valves, controller, mobile app, all these add to the startup cost, especially if you want to supply multiple hives at once. But it's important to understand, this is a one-time investment that saves labor, fuel and human energy in the long run, and the higher yield quickly pays back the cost. Technical requirements. Running the system requires a minimum level of technical knowledge. You need to install the app, set the schedules, and fine-tune the system if needed. The good news is it's not complicated and doesn't require IT skills. If you can set a timer on your phone, you can handle this too. Plus, most settings only need to be done once, after which everything runs almost automatically. Second, vacuum bucket system. How does it work? This system is a simple but effective solution for colder periods or when automation isn't possible. Yet more precise dosing is needed than with traditional manual feeding. The basic operating principle is syrup is released into the hive from a vacuum-operated dosing bucket, and the bees can continuously take the syrup at the designated feeding spot, but in limited amounts. This solution is not continuous like the automatic system, but more even and predictable than manual feeding with large weekly doses. It's usually used in early spring or on cooler days when the automatic system isn't yet optimal. For example, syrup cools down in external tanks, or when the beekeeper wants to intervene quickly and purposefully in colony development, such as boosting a delayed colony or as temporary support. Relatively simple construction. Its biggest advantage is that it doesn't require complex technology or external power source. With a suitable bucket, you can achieve stable, predictable dosing, especially where there is no automatic system installed or the apiary isn't suitable for digital control. Setup takes just a few minutes. Maintenance is minimal and it doesn't require special technical skills. Works were combined with patties. The vacuum system is ideally complements pollen and protein substitute patties, as the continuous mild syrup intake helps process the patties and enhance the stimulation effect. This is especially useful in cooler spring periods or when colony need to be kick-started after a stagnant phase. What to watch out for this system? Moderate efficiency. Although it performs better than classic manual feeding, it still falls far behind the results of automatic system. The syrup's dosing isn't frequent enough to create a lasting nectar flow perception in the bees, so egg laying and colony development start more slowly and unevenly. This difference is especially visible when compared to colonies developed with 5 to 10 daily impulses from an automatic system, which can mean a population advantage of several weeks. More time consuming, less dosing. The vacuum system isn't self-operating. Buckets needs to be filled and checked. If often doesn't provide much feeding as rapidly development colony needs. This requires significant time and attention in larger apiaries, which limits scalability in the long run. 3. Traditional manual stimulation. How does it work? This method is still the default stimulation for many beekeepers today, especially in smaller apiaries. The basic principle is simple. The beekeeper visits the hives 2 or 3 times a week and doses the stimulation syrup manually, usually in larger amounts, around or above 300 to 500 ml per colony. The syrup is typically 1 to 101 sugar to water mixed, applied using various feeding tools such as feeding trays placed above the brood nest, bags placed on the frames, or feeder frames inside the hives. The goal is the same as with other systems, to stimulate colony development, mainly increasing egg laying when there is no natural nectar flow. However, due to the method of application, this causes a more pulsed effect. The large dose is consumed quickly and the bees perceive gaps in the process. No lasting nectar flow sensation develops, which is crucial for continuous egg laying. Additionally, this system depends entirely on human presence. You must be there for each feeding, measure the dose, apply the syrup, and watch weather or windows signs. Cold, windy, or rainy weather often makes working impossible. While simple and cheap, manual stimulation is biologically less effective and costs a lot in time and effort, especially with larger colony numbers. Advantage: why can manual stimulation still be useful? Low cost, no extra equipment needed. Its biggest advantage is that it requires almost no investment. No need for pumps, controllers, mobile apps, or any technical devices. All you need is a bottle or a jug dispenser, some feeding tool, bag, tray, feeder frame, and a bit of time. This is especially advantageous for beginner beekeepers or smaller apiaries where there's no demand for more advanced system or simply no budget for one. Manual stimulation is a good entry-level method that helps the beekeeper learn to observe colony reaction and understand how syrup affects development. It's flexible and instantly deployable. No installation or setup. You just grab your tools, measure the syrup, and start. It's also useful in unexpected situations like sudden nectar shortage, need for feeding, or weak colonies, when immediate intervention is necessary. Direct connection to the bees. This may not be a technical advantage, but many experienced beekeepers consider it important. During manual stimulation, you are right at the hive, observing the colony's behavior, condition, and sheer development. This helps detect early problems and makes the beekeeper a more sensitive and accurate decision maker through regular contact. Disadvantage: why is not recommended for long-term use? Very time-consuming and tiring. The biggest problem with manual stimulation is that it demands a lot of time and human effort. If you need to visit the apiary 2 or 3 times a week, stopping at each hive to open it and dose syrup, then even a smaller apiary takes several hours, and for larger apiaries it becomes practically a full-time job. On top of that, every time you have to carry the syrup, measure and dose it, clean up the equipment, and adapt to weather conditions. Working is often impossible in rain or wind. This requires not only time but also physical and mental energy that could be used much more efficiently elsewhere. Extreme fluctuations equal no biological rhythm. Manual dosing is pulsed, meaning the bees get a large amount at once, which they consume quickly, then nothing for days. Biologically, this means no lasting nectar flow perception, no steady stimulation impulse develops, the queen lays eggs irregularly, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the stimulus. This stop-and-go pattern slows down development, especially in spring, when the goal is to ramp up brood production as quickly as possible. It produces the weakest results. Based on your experience and measurements, traditional manual stimulation consistently delivers the poorest results. Fewer bees develop in the same time, the colony's egg laying intensity is weaker, and colonies take longer to reach the nectar flow ready stage. This is especially disadvantageous when every day counts, such as before a short, intense acacia bloom. Delays here can cause real losses in honey yield. In summary, manual stimulation is simple and cheap, but comes with many compromises. A modern apiary cannot rely on it long term if it wants to stay competitive in terms of both timing and performance. And for the final, the question is how to set up the automatic stimulation system. Setting up the automatic stimulation system may seem complicated at first, but once you understand the logic, it quickly becomes routine. First, it's important to know which version you are using, 1010 volts or 230 volts. Tuya Smart Plug System or the 12 volts battery powered version with the custom controller. Both work on the same principle. Programmed timing with the small doses given multiple times a day. First, download the appropriate app. Tuya Smart for the 110 volts or 230 volts systems, or the custom app of you are using the 12 volts unit. Pair the device with your phone, usually via QR code or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection. Once connected, the device will appear in the app interface and you can start setting the schedule. The key: multiple small doses imitate the natural nectar flow, which results in strong and continuous egg laying. So, don't think in terms of one large daily feeding, but rather 3 to 10 times stimulation per day, spaced out over time. Each dose about 50 milliliters of syrup. In the app, set when the device should turn on and how long each cycle lasts. Example, 1 minute it's about 50 milliliters. Most apps allow you to set timed cycles. An example, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. Run weekly schedules, example only weekdays or different programs on different days. And fine-tune precise timing. An example, with 1 minute accuracy. Most apps also let you monitor device status or receive push notifications when cycle complete successfully. The more advanced 12-volt system logs data, such as those amounts and timing, and can even track feedback related to colony development. This makes the system not just an executor, but also a learning tool that lets you customize programs over time for different segments of your apiary. Although automated, it's good to check the system weekly. Are cycles running correctly? Has colony condition change requiring dose adjustment? Is there enough syrup in the tank? In summary, with a smartphone in your pocket, you can control a complete stimulation system with minimal time input and maximum efficiency. This is what pushed the modern precision beekeeping toward the future. A well-set system works almost invisibly while continues improving your colonies. The biggest mistake is to set it once and forget it. Always adjust stimulation cycles based on the colony current condition and weather. What to watch out for when using the vacuum bucket system? The vacuum bucket system is the most convenient semi-automatic solution when automatic control is not available, but you still want a more even dosing that manual stimulation. Using the bucket is relatively simple, but there are some critical points to keep in mind for efficient operation. Use buckets that seal airtight and where the dispensing opening precisely controls to the syrup flow. The vacuum effect only works if the bucket seals when and the internal pressure difference regulates the dosing. The size and the placement of the holes are critical. Too large hole is equal syrup flows out too fast. Too small holes, it's equal bees cannot properly suck it out. It's recommended to use 1 to 2 millimeters holes in lid or at the feeder connection point, depending on the dosing intensity. Buckets are usually placed on the top of the hive. It's important that they stand stable and do not tip over. Because the syrup flows out, it breaks the vacuum when air gets in through a hole, causing overflow. Check the bucket level at least once a week and refill when needed. Also, it's recommended to clean the buckets during refills, especially if you use pollen or vitamin mixtures, because they'll settle faster and can ferment. Be careful to avoid fermentation, because then instead of vacuum, overpressure builds up and pushes syrup into the colony. This is bad and can cause many problems. The vacuum system works well together with protein and pollen substitute patties. It's worth applying both in sync. Syrup stimulates egg laying, and the patties provide the protein needed for larval rearing. Overall, the vacuum system is good compromise, but it only works efficiently if you check it regularly and set it up precisely. A manual stimulation seems simple, but actually hides many possible errors, mainly because the human factor is fully present. If you choose this method, it's important to do it consistently. Otherwise, you may do more harm than good. The most common mistake is giving a large syrup dose rarely. An example, 1 liter 1 or 2 times a week. This is too much at once. The colony stores it quickly, but it does not provide lasting stimulation, and in most cases they can't fully process it. The queen picks up strongly at first and drops, so development becomes uneven. A better approach is 3 to 5 times a week, small doses 300 to 500 milliliter, and preferably at the same time of day. With manual stimulation, timing matters. Bees are less active and more irritable in cool, windy weather and much more likely to sting, which makes stimulation harder. For the best development, it's worth stimulating the colony in the morning, especially if you only feed once a day or 3 to 5 times a week. Use a good 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 sugar water solution. Rinse feeding tool after every use and be careful not to let syrup drip everywhere during feeding. Don't feed ad hoc. If you only bring syrup when you remember, the results will be uneven development. Make a weekly plan and, if possible, feed on the same day at the same time. Many start feeding only when the colony is visibly weak. By then, the effect is already too late. The effectiveness of manual stimulation increases with timely intervention. The earlier you start, the better results you get. As we've gone through, it's clear, not all stimulation methods are equal. Modern beekeeping goes far beyond feeding bees occasionally. It's a strategic intervention that determines colony development, yield, and ultimately the success of your beekeeping. An automated stimulation system doesn't just mean convenience, it means precision that is impossible to achieve by hand, continuous, natural nectar flow imitation that leads to explosive development, and time saving that let you finally focus on what really matters: strategic decisions, observation, and improvements. While vacuum system and manual stimulation have their place in certain situations, the real breakthrough comes from automating colony development and stimulation. Our tests show colonies can reach 75 to 85% larger populations and start producing earlier, with less physical labor and much more predictability. Beekeeping isn't about templates. The best system is always shaped by your own experience. That's why I encourage you. Try the methods, experiment, observe, take notes, because your decisions shape the future of beekeeping and the growth of your bees. A successful season doesn't start when the acacia arrives. It starts months earlier, at the moment of stimulation. In the next video, we'll talk about why and how stimulation works on the biological level, practically the science behind the bee stimulation lines. I reveal what actually happens in the behavior and physiology of bees when you work with a well-turned stimulation system and how you can apply it more consistent. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you like this video, share it with other beekeepers too. Because a good system is not a secret, it's an opportunity. Thanks for watching. I am Oscar and this is the intelligent real-world beekeeping journey. Until next time, keep buzzing.